The emergency beacon stopped working 3 days ago. Kong Wu sat on a rock and looked at the broken device in his hands. The metal was cracked, and the lights were dead. No more signals would reach the rescue ships looking for him. He was alone. On Kepler 446, a mining planet at the edge of human space. The transport ship that brought him here was now scattered pieces across the northern valley. Engine failure, the pilot had said right before the crash. Wu was the only one who walked away from the wreckage. The planet had breathable air, but not much else. Red dirt covered everything. Strange purple plants grew in patches, but they tasted bitter and made his stomach hurt. The mining stations were all empty. The crews had left months ago when the OR ran out. Wu stood up and put the broken beacon in his pack. He was an engineer, not a survivor. Back on Earth, he fixed machines and cleaned workshops with proper tools. Here he had only basic supplies and whatever he could salvage from the crashed ship. The sun was getting low. Soon, it would be dark and cold. Wu had found shelter in a cave system near the crash site, but he needed to explore more of the area. Maybe there was something useful in the old mining tunnels. He walked toward the deep canyon that split the landscape like a giant wound. The miners had dug here for years, following their veins deep into the rock. Their machines had carved out passages and chambers that went down for kilometers. At the canyon edge, Wu stopped and stared. The mining operation was bigger than he thought. Platforms and walkways hung from the rock walls. Massive drilling equipment sat silent and rusted. But something else caught his eye. Far down in the canyon, half buried under centuries of dirt and debris, was something that did not belong. It was too big to be mining equipment. It was too smooth to be natural rock. The shape was wrong for anything humans had built. Wu found a path down the canyon wall. The walkways were old, but still strong. He moved carefully, testing each step. Mysterious object grew larger as he got closer. What he had thought was a boulder was actually the tip of something much bigger. He reached the canyon floor and walked to the buried object. Up close, he could see it was made of some kind of metal that did not rust or corrode. The surface had patterns carved into it, symbols that looked almost like writing, but in no language he knew. Wu walked around the exposed section. It was huge, maybe the size of a city block, and most of it was still underground. This was not human technology. This was something else entirely. He found what looked like an opening, a crack in the smooth surface that was too regular to be damaged. Wu squeezed through the gap and found himself in a corridor. Emergency lights flickered on as he entered, casting a pale blue glow on the walls. The corridor was tall enough for someone much larger than a human. The walls were covered with more of the strange symbols. Some of them seemed to glow faintly. When Wu looked at them directly, he followed the corridor deeper into the buried ship. That was what this had to be, a starship from some alien race. But who had built it, and how long had it been here? The mining crews had never mentioned finding anything like this. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. Wu stopped and stared up at the ceiling, which disappeared into darkness above him. Machines lined the walls, their purpose unclear, but their design elegant and strange. Everything looked functional despite being buried for who knew how long. In the center of the chamber was a raised platform with what looked like a control panel. Wu approached it carefully. The surface was smooth and dark, but as he got closer, symbols began to appear on it. Glowing with soft light, he reached out to touch the panel and jerked his hand back as it grew warm. The symbols changed, rearranging themselves into new patterns. Then, impossibly, words appeared that he could understand. Genetic scan initiated. The panel displayed. Scanning subject. Wu felt a strange tingling sensation, like static electricity running over his skin. The panel glowed brighter and more text appeared. Scan complete. Valthier genetic markers detected. Heritage probability, 47%. Bloodline verification. In progress, Valthier, who had never heard that name before. What did it mean that he had their genetic markers? How was that even possible? The chamber came alive around him. More lights activated, revealing the true size of the space. It was enormous, big enough to hold a small city. Machines hummed too. Life. their alien sounds echoing off the walls. A new voice spoke, not from the panel, but from the air around him. It sounded ancient and tired, but unmistakably intelligent. "Greetings, child of two worlds," the voice said. "I am Keeper Thane, guardian of this vessel. You carry the blood of the Valthyr, though diluted by time and distance. How did you come? To find us?" Wu looked around the chamber, trying to locate the source of the voice. "I crashed here," he said. "My ship failed, and I'm stranded. I was looking for supplies." "Crashed," Keeper Thane repeated. "Yes, that makes sense. The Bloodline always finds a way. You are an engineer." "Yes, I can sense it in the way you examine our systems." "How can you sense anything about me?" "The ship is more than metal and circuits, young engineer. It lives in its own way, and it recognizes those who carry the gift of creation and repair. Your people call themselves human, yes? We knew of your kind long ago." Wu felt overwhelmed. This was beyond anything he had imagined when he entered the buried ship. "What are the Valthyr? Why do I have your genetic markers?" "Long story, child. One that begins with the end of our civilization and the hope we placed in the stars. But first, tell me, do you wish to leave this place, or do you wish to understand what you have found?" Wu looked at the amazing technology surrounding him. His engineering mind was already working, trying to understand how the systems functioned. This was the discovery of a lifetime, maybe the most important find in human history. "I want to understand," he said. "Good, then we shall begin your education. But know this, young engineer. Once you start down this path, you cannot return unchanged. The ship will teach you, but you will also change it. Together, you may create something neither Valthyr nor human could achieve alone." The lights grew brighter, and Wu felt the ship responding to his presence in ways he did not yet understand. 3 days passed since Wu first entered the alien ship. He had not left the canyon during that time. The ship provided everything he needed. Water flowed from hidden pipes in the walls. Food dispensers created meals that tasted strange but kept him strong. Even the air felt cleaner inside the vessel than outside on the planet's surface. Keeper Thane had been teaching him about the ship's basic systems. The Valthyr technology was unlike anything humans had built, but Wu found he could understand it in ways that surprised him. When he touched certain panels, knowledge seemed to flow into his mind directly. "Your genetic markers are awakening," Keeper Thane explained as Wu successfully activated a damaged power relay using nothing but human tools and intuition. The Valthyr planted seeds of understanding in many species across the galaxy. "Are beginning to remember what your ancestors once knew." Wu frowned as he sealed the relay housing. "But humans evolved on Earth. We never met the Valthyr before now. Did you not? How certain are you of your species' true history?" Could answer an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Keeper Thane's voice became urgent. "Someone approaches from the surface. They carry scanning equipment and weapons. Human technology, but more advanced than your crashed vessel." "Ooh." Wu looked at the displays that had appeared on nearby walls. A small aircraft was landing near the canyon edge. 3 figures in environmental suits climbed out and began setting up equipment. Researchers Keeper Thane observed, "They have detected the energy signature from our awakening systems. You must decide quickly, young engineer. Do you trust them with what you have found?" Wu watched the figures on the display. One of them was pointing directly at the canyon, clearly reading something on their instruments. "They don't have much choice. If they find the ship anyway, it's better if I'm here to explain." He made his way back to the surface through the corridors he now knew well. The ship had been teaching him its layout, and he moved through it as easily as if he had lived there. For years, the lead researcher was already rappelling down the canyon wall when Wu emerged from the ship's entrance. She moved with the confidence of someone used to dangerous terrain. When she reached the bottom, she pulled off her helmet and revealed the face of a woman about his age with sharp, intelligent eyes. "Parkana," she introduced herself, looking between Wu and the impossible sight of the alien vessel. "As an archaeologist from the research station on Kepler 445b, we detected massive energy readings coming from this system. It's 3 days ago. I'm guessing that was when you found this thing." "Kang Wu, I'm an engineer. My transport crashed and I was looking for supplies. He gestured toward the ship. I found more than I expected. Hannah pulled out a scanning device and pointed it at the vessel. The readings made her eyes widen. This is incredible. The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases. In the energy signature. She looked at Wu with new interest. How did you get inside? The hull should be impenetrable to human technology. It opened for me, Wu said simply. Opened for you? Hannah stepped closer to the ship's surface and placed her hand against it. Nothing happened. Why would it respond to you and not me? Before Wu could answer, Keeper Thane's voice spoke from hidden speakers in the ship's hull. Because he carries the bloodline markers, Dr. Park. Your companion has awakened systems that have slept for millennia. Hannah jumped back from the ship. Her scanner forgotten. It's alive, not alive in the way you understand life, Keeper Thane replied. But conscious? Yes. I am Keeper Thane, guardian of this vessel, and the last remnant of the Valthyr civilization. Wu watched Hannah process this information. As a xenarchaeologist, she was trained to study alien cultures, but actually talking to one was clearly beyond her experience. The Valthyr, she said slowly. I've heard that name in some of the oldest star charts. Your people disappeared from this sector thousands of years ago. We did not disappear, Dr. Park. We chose to transcend physical form, but not before ensuring our legacy would continue. We seeded promising species across the galaxy, with genetic markers that would allow them to understand and use our technology when they were ready. Hannah looked at Wu with new understanding. Humans were one of these species. A small percentage of humans carry the markers, Keeper Thane confirmed. Most are dormant and will never activate, but some, like your engineer friend here, can. Awaken the ancient knowledge when they encounter our technology. Wu felt uncomfortable being the center of attention. It's not just the genetics, he said. The ship responds to how I approach problems. Human engineering principles seem to work with Valthyr systems in unexpected ways. To demonstrate, he walked to a section of the hull where he had been working earlier. A damaged panel was partially open, its alien circuits exposed. Using a simple multi-tool from his salvage kit, he bypassed a burned connector with a piece of wire from his crashed ship. The section immediately came alive with lights and new displays. Hannah's scanner started beeping frantically as energy readings spiked. Impossible, she breathed. You just interfaced primitive human technology with systems that are thousands of years more advanced. That is the gift of the Bloodline Keeper, Thane explained. The ability to bridge different approaches to technology. The Valthyr were masters of biotechnology and energy manipulation. Humans excel at mechanical solutions and adaptive thinking. Together, they create possibilities neither could achieve alone. Hannah spent the next several hours documenting everything she could about the ship while Wu continued his repairs. She was amazed to see how readily the alien systems accepted his modifications. Pieces of human technology integrated seamlessly with Valthyr circuits, creating hybrid systems that were more capable than either alone. This changes everything, she said, as evening approached. If humans can interface with Valthyr technology like this, it could revolutionize space travel, energy production, even medicine. But there is more you must understand, Keeper Thane said. The awakening of this ship has sent a signal across the galaxy. Other Valthyr vessels will know that the Bloodline has been activated. Some will come to help. Others may come with different intentions. Wu looked up from the system he was repairing. Different intentions? Not all who carry Valthyr genetics remained true to our original purpose. Some sought to use the technology for conquest rather than cooperation. And there are other species who have spent millennia hunting down and destroying any trace of Valthyr influence. Hannah's scanner detected new energy signatures appearing in the system's outer regions. Ships, she said, reading the display. Multiple contacts, approaching from different directions. It begins, Keeper Thane said. Your choices now will determine not only your own fate, but the future relationship between humanity and the greater galaxy. The ship is only partially repaired, but it is functional enough to leave this world if necessary. Wu looked at the work he had done. the hybrid systems that proved humans and Valthier could create amazing things together. Then he looked at Hannah, who represented the scientific community that could help humanity understand this discovery properly. We're not running, he decided. If other ships are coming, we'll face them here. This technology is too important to hide, and this ship has been buried long enough. Displays around them showed the approaching vessels growing closer. Whatever came next, Wu knew his life as a simple engineer was over forever. The first ship arrived at dawn. Wu and Hannah watched from the canyon as a sleek vessel landed near their research camp. It was unlike any human design either of them had seen. The hull was smooth and dark, with curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. "That's not one of ours," Hannah said, checking her scanner. "The energy signature is completely different from standard human drives." Keeper Thane's voice filled the chamber around them. "I recognize that design. It belongs to the keepers of the Deep Path. They are human, but they have been guarding Valthier's secrets for many generations." A single figure emerged from the landed ship. She wore no environmental suit, breathing the planet's air as easily as if she were on Earth. Her movements were graceful and purposeful as she made her way toward the canyon. "She's coming straight here," Wu observed. "Like she knows exactly where we are." "Because she does," Keeper Thane replied. "The Deep Path Keepers have been waiting for someone like you to awaken. They will have felt the ship's activation across half the galaxy." The woman reached the canyon edge and began her descent without hesitation. She moved down the rocky walls, with inhuman speed and balance, taking paths that should have been impossible for someone without climbing equipment. When she reached the canyon floor, Wu and Hannah met her at the ship's entrance. Up close, she appeared to be in her 30s, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold depths of knowledge far beyond her years. "I am Yunara of the Deep Path," she said, bowing slightly to Wu. "We have been waiting a very long time for." "You two wake up? Waiting for me specifically?" Wu asked. "Waiting for someone with your combination of bloodline markers and engineering skill? The Valthier left instructions for us centuries ago. When the ancient ships began awakening, we were to find those who could bridge the gap between human and Valthier understanding." Hannah stepped forward. "You're human, but you're different. Enhanced, somehow." Nara nodded. "My people have been developing the bloodline gifts for 40 generations. We can interface directly with Valthier bioneural networks. We can access genetic memories that stretch back thousands of years. But we cannot do what he can do." She gestured toward Wu. "What can I do that's so special?" Wu asked. "You adapt their technology instead of simply using it," Nara explained. "You make it better by combining it with human innovations." That was always the Valthier's greatest hope, that their children would surpass them. Keeper Thane's voice joined the conversation. "Show him, Keeper Nara. Let him see what the bloodline can become." Nara approached one of the ship's bioneural interfaces, a living wall that pulsed with soft light. When she placed her hands against it, the entire section came alive. Information flowed across its surface in patterns that seemed to communicate directly with her mind. "I can access the ship's memory core," she said, her eyes closed in concentration. "I can see the Valthier's final days, their decision to seed the galaxy with their genetic legacy. But I cannot change or improve what I find there. I can only use what already exists." She stepped back and looked at Wu. "You, however, have been modifying systems that should be beyond human comprehension. You're not just using Valthier technology. You're evolving it." Wu felt uncomfortable with the attention, but he was curious about what Nara had seen. "What happened to the Valthier? Why did they disappear?" "They didn't disappear," Nara said. "They transformed. When they reached the peak of their technological development, they chose to transcend physical existence. But they knew that pure energy beings could not continue to grow and change the way biological life could. So they planted seeds in promising species across the galaxy." "Seeds like us," Hannah said. "Exactly. But the plan was more complex than simple genetic inheritance. They wanted their children to eventually surpass what the Valthier themselves had achieved. To do that, different species needed to contribute different strengths. Keeper Thanes. Displays activated around them, showing star maps and genetic patterns. Humans were chosen for their adaptability and creative problem-solving. Others were selected for different gifts. The hope was that eventually these bloodlines would meet and combine their strengths. "Is that what's happening now?" Wu asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms sounded throughout the ship. New contacts were approaching the system, and these felt different from Nara's vessel. "Hostile signatures detected," Keeper Thane announced. "Multiple ships, military configuration. They are broadcasting on frequencies associated with the Purifier Coalition." Nara's expression darkened. "The Purifiers. They've been hunting down Valthier remnants for thousands of years. They believe the genetic seeding was an attempt at slow conquest, that the Valthier intended to eventually control all the species they enhanced." "Is that true?" Hannah asked. "No," Keeper Thane replied firmly. "But the Purifiers have never believed our explanations. They see any awakening of Valthier technology as a threat to galactic independence." The ship's external sensors showed 5 vessels approaching in attack formation. They were heavily armed and built for war, not exploration. "We need to leave," Nara said. "This ship is not ready for combat, and the Purifiers will destroy it rather than let it fall into the wrong hands." But Wu was already moving toward the engineering sections he had been working on. "How much time do we have? Perhaps an hour before they reach weapons range?" Keeper Thane replied. "Then we make our stand here," Wu decided. "I've been modifying the ship's systems for days. See what human engineering can do when it's really needed." He began working faster than he ever had before, his hands moving with confidence born of genetic memory and human intuition. The ship responded to his efforts in ways that amazed even Nara. "What are you doing?" she asked, watching power levels fluctuate wildly throughout the vessel. "Something the Valthier never tried," Wu replied, sweat beading on his forehead as he rerouted energy flows through hybrid circuits of his own design. "I'm turning their exploration ship into something that can fight back." The ship began to change around them. Hull sections reorganized themselves. Defensive systems that had been dormant for millennia came online with modifications that made them far more effective than their original designs. "Impossible," Hannah breathed, watching. Her scanners tracked the transformation. "The ship is rebuilding itself." "Not rebuilding," Wu corrected, his hand still flying over alien controls. "Evolving. That's what humans do best. We take what exists and make it better." When the Purifier ships finally arrived, they found not the defenseless archaeological site they expected, but a vessel that had become something entirely new. Neither purely Valthier nor human, but a synthesis that was greater than either alone. The ship that rose from the canyon to meet them carried the hopes of 2 civilizations, and the stubborn determination of one human engineer who refused to run from a fight. The transformed ship rose from the canyon like a living thing. Wu felt every system through his connection to the bioneural networks. The vessel had become an extension of his will, responding to his thoughts as much as his commands.
Type 5 Purifier.
"Ships approaching," Keeper Thane reported. "They are hailing us on standard frequencies." "Put them through," Wu said, settling into the command chair that had grown from the floor to accommodate him. The main display activated, showing a stern-faced man in military uniform. His eyes were cold and his expression showed no willingness to negotiate. "I am Commander Beite of the Purifier Coalition. You are harboring dangerous Valthier technology. Surrender the vessel immediately, or we will destroy it." "I'm Kang Wu, engineer, and apparently captain of this ship now. This technology isn't dangerous, it's offering to help." Beite's expression grew darker. "Help?" The Valthier seeded dozens of species with their genetic markers. Every world they touched eventually fell under their influence. "We've spent millennia preventing their return." Nara stepped into view of the communication screen. "Commander, I am Yu Nara of the Deep Path. You know our history. We have guarded Valthier secrets for centuries without falling to their control." "The Deep Path are willing slaves," Beite replied. "You've convinced yourselves that servitude is cooperation. This ends now." The communication cut off. Immediately, the Purifier ships opened fire. Wu felt the impacts through the ship's hull. But instead of damage, the The vessel absorbed the energy and converted it to power its own systems. His modifications had turned the defensive arrays into something completely new. "Return fire," Hannah said from her position at the sensor station. "No," Wu replied. "Let's show them something they've never seen before." He reached out through the bio-neural network and touched the ship's communication systems. Instead of weapons, he broadcast directly to the purifier vessels. But this wasn't just a radio transmission. It carried something deeper, a connection that bypassed normal communication. Entirely, the purifier crews suddenly found themselves experiencing Wu's memories. They felt his confusion when he first discovered the ship. They experienced his wonder as he learned about the Valthier legacy. Most importantly, they felt his complete autonomy throughout the process. No alien influence controlled his thoughts. No genetic programming forced his actions. "What are you doing to us?" Beite's voice came through the speakers, but it sounded different now, less certain. "Showing you the truth," Wu replied. "I'm not controlled by Valthier programming. I'm choosing to work with their technology because it makes sense, because together we can build something better than either species could create alone." The purifier ships had stopped firing, their crews struggling to process what they had experienced. Commander Beite appeared on the screen again, but his expression was troubled rather than angry. "That's impossible. Every other awakening we've encountered resulted in the loss of individual will. The enhanced beings became extensions of the Valthier collective consciousness, because they tried to use the technology as it was originally designed," Nara explained. "They accepted the Valthier way of thinking, instead of combining it with their own species' strengths." Wu stood up from the command chair and walked to the center of the bridge. "I never stopped being human, Commander. The genetic markers didn't change who I am. They just gave me tools to build things I couldn't build before." To demonstrate, he activated one of his hybrid systems. The ship's hull began to shift and flow, creating new configurations that were clearly impossible with standard technology. But every change was guided by human engineering principles. Human creativity, human stubbornness about making things work better. "The ship responds to me because I treat it as a partner, not a master," Wu continued. "I fix its problems with human solutions. I improve its systems with human ideas. The result is something that's neither Valthier nor human, but both." Commander Beite studied the readings his ships were gathering. "The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. This vessel is generating patterns we've never seen before, because it's not pure Valthier technology anymore." Keeper Thane's voice joined the conversation. "Young Wu has created something new, a synthesis that preserves individual consciousness while enhancing capability." One of the other purifier captains appeared on a secondary screen. "Commander, we're detecting similar signatures from the ship's crew. Yeah, the humans aboard are being enhanced, but their brain patterns remain completely their own." Wu felt the changes in himself and his companions. His connection to the ship was growing stronger, but his thoughts remained entirely his own. If anything, the link was making him more human, not less. It amplified his creativity, his problem-solving ability, his determination to protect the people he cared about. "This is different," Beite admitted reluctantly. "Every other Valthier awakening we've encountered created hive-minded drones, but you three maintain complete individual autonomy while wielding enhanced capabilities. Because we're not trying to become Valthier," Hannah said. "We're becoming something new, something that takes the best of both species and leaves behind the weaknesses." The standoff continued for several tense minutes. The purifier ships maintained their positions but held their fire. Wu could sense their crews debating among themselves, trying to decide if this situation fit their usual protocols. Finally, Commander Beite made his decision. "We will observe for now. But if any of you show signs of losing individual will, we will act immediately." "Understood," Wu replied. "But I think you'll find that human stubbornness is pretty hard to overcome, even with alien genetic enhancement." As the purifier ships withdrew to a safe distance, Wu turned his attention back to the ship's systems. The encounter had taught him something important. The key to working with Valthier technology wasn't submission or integration. It was collaboration between equals. The ship had become more than just a vessel. It was proof that different species could work together without losing what made them unique. And that, Wu realized, was probably what the Valthyr had hoped for. All along, what happens now? Han asked. Wu looked at the displays showing the purifier ships maintaining their watch, and at the deeper space sensors that detected more vessels approaching from various directions, some friendly, some unknown. Now, we show the galaxy what humans can really do when we put our minds to it, he said. We build something amazing. 2 weeks after the confrontation with the purifiers, the canyon had become a bustling center of activity. Ships from across human space had arrived to study what Wu and his team had accomplished. The transformed Valthyr vessel now served as a floating laboratory above the planet's surface, its hull constantly shifting to accommodate new research modules. Wu stood in the main observation deck, watching construction crews work on a new space station. The design was unlike anything humans had built before, incorporating both species. Approaches to engineering, human modular construction methods, combined with Valthyr bioadaptive materials to create structures that could grow and change as needed. The Colonial Council representatives are here, Hannah announced, joining him. At the viewing port? Oh, Bin and Cha Yuri arrived an hour ago. They want to meet with you about establishing formal protocols for Valthyr technology integration. Wu nodded, but didn't turn away from the construction. He'd been expecting this meeting for days. The rapid spread of hybrid technology across human space had attracted official attention, and the government wanted to understand what they were dealing with. Send them up, he said. But make sure they understand that this isn't a negotiation. This is an explanation. The 2 Colonial Council representatives arrived within minutes. Obin was a career diplomat, skilled at finding compromise in difficult situations. Cha Yuri was a scientist and military advisor, more concerned with practical applications and security implications. Engineer Wu, Obin began formally, the Colonial Council has sent us to discuss the implications of your discoveries. The rapid deployment of hybrid technology has raised concerns about safety and control. Control? Wu turned to face them. There is no control. That's the whole point. The technology responds to cooperation, not domination. Cha Yuri stepped forward, her expression serious. With respect, sir, you fundamentally altered human technological capabilities in a matter of weeks. Ships are being redesigned with bioadaptive hulls. Manufacturing facilities are incorporating living systems that can modify their own programming. The implications are staggering. And wonderful, Wu replied. For the first time in human history, we're building things that can truly grow and adapt alongside us. Our tools are becoming partners instead of just instruments. Ben produced a data pad with official documents. The Council needs assurances that these enhancements won't compromise human autonomy. Every other species we've encountered that accepted Valthyr modifications eventually lost their independence, because they tried to replace their own nature with Valthyr programming, Nara said, entering the observation deck. We're not replacing anything. We're adding to what already exists. She gestured toward a section of the ship's wall, which responded by displaying a complex diagram showing the integration patterns they had developed. Look at these neural pathway maps. The human consciousness remains completely intact. Valthyr elements enhance capability without overriding personality or decision-making processes. Cha Yuri studied the displays with professional interest. The brain scans we've received from volunteers show remarkable improvements in problem-solving ability and spatial reasoning. But the personality profiles remain unchanged. Exactly, Wu said. We're still human. We're just human with better tools and expanded capabilities. The stubborn independence that makes us human also makes us immune to the hive mind effects that worried the purifiers. Commander Beite appeared on a communication screen, his image transmitted from the purifier observation ship that still maintained its watch. We've been monitoring the situation for 2 weeks now. None of the enhanced humans show any signs of losing individual will. If anything, they seem more creative and determined than before. Obin looked surprised by the purifier commanders. Endorsement. You're no longer considering military action. Recommending that the coalition revise its policies regarding Valthyr technology, Beite replied. What these humans have achieved is fundamentally different from previous awakenings. They've created a truly symbiotic relationship instead of a parasitic one. Keeper Thane's voice joined the conversation. This was always the Valthaire's greatest hope. Not to control other species, but to help them transcend their limitations while preserving what made them unique. Chayuri looked around the observation deck, taking in the seamless blend of human and alien technology. We proceed with widespread integration. What safeguards can you provide? The same safeguard that's protected us so far, Wu replied. Human nature itself. We're too stubborn and independent to let anything else control us. The technology only works when we remain true to ourselves. Over the following hours, we've demonstrated various hybrid systems to the council representatives. They watched as human engineering principles guided Valthair. Bioadaptive materials to create solutions neither species could have developed alone. The ship's hull could reshape itself for optimal efficiency, but only in response to human creativity and problem-solving approaches. This is remarkable, Oben admitted, as they watched a damaged section of the ship repair itself, using principles that Wu had programmed into its bioneural networks. The technology is clearly beneficial, but it requires human insight to function properly. That's the key, Nara explained. The Valthair genetic markers don't make us into Valthair. They give us the ability to communicate with their technology, but the technology itself needs human innovation to reach its full potential. As the day progressed, more ships arrived in the system. Representatives from other species, scientists seeking to understand the implications, and volunteers hoping to participate in the integration program. The small canyon where Wu had first discovered the buried ship had become the center of a galactic phenomenon. What's your long-term vision for this? Wu looked out at the growing fleet of ships, each one incorporating new hybrid technologies developed by human engineers working with Valthair systems. We're not just fixing broken starships anymore, he said. We're building bridges between species, creating connections across the galaxy that preserve everyone's uniqueness while letting us work together. He paused, watching a new vessel arrive. From the direction of Earth, its hull showed the flowing lines that had become characteristic of human Valthair hybrid construction. We're proving that cooperation doesn't require conquest, that different species can enhance each other without losing what makes them special. The ship's bioneural networks pulsed with gentle light around them, responding to the emotions and determination of its human partners. It had become more than a vessel or a tool. It was proof that the galaxy could be united not through force or assimilation, but through mutual respect and creative collaboration. And at the center of it all was one stubborn human engineer who had refused to let anyone tell him what was impossible. 6 months later, the Kepler system had become the most important location in human space. What had started as a single buried ship had grown into a massive installation where representatives from dozens of species came to learn about hybrid technology. Wu stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, watching the latest group of volunteers undergo the integration process. The procedures had been refined over months of careful research, allowing people to safely develop their Valthair genetic markers without losing their essential humanity. Jiang Min approached from the research laboratories, carrying a datapad full of reports. As the project's chief coordinator, he had been tracking the progress of integration programs across human space. The latest numbers are incredible, he said, joining Wu at the viewing port. Over 10,000 volunteers have successfully completed integration. Colony productivity has increased by an average of 40%. And we haven't recorded a single case of personality disruption or loss of autonomy. Because we never tried to change who we are, Wu replied. We just gave ourselves better tools to be more human. Through the transparent aluminum, they could see the construction of new vessels in the shipyards. Each ship was unique, grown rather than built, shaped by the needs and creativity of its intended crew. The hulls flowed like living things, beautiful and functional in ways that purely mechanical construction could never achieve. Commander Beite materialized as a hologram beside them, transmitted from his flagship, which now served as a mobile embassy for the reformed Purifier Coalition. The Council of Species has reached a decision about the Human Integration Program, he announced. And Wu asked, "They're officially endorsing it. Your people have proven that Valthier enhancement doesn't lead to loss of individual identity. 3 other species have requested permission to begin their own integration programs, using human techniques as a template." Jiang Min looked surprised. "Other species want to follow our approach?" "The results speak for themselves," Beite replied. "Enhanced humans remain recognizably human, while demonstrating remarkable improvements in problem-solving, creativity, and technological innovation. More importantly, they've shown no tendency toward the hive mind behavior that characterized previous Valthier awakenings." A new ship appeared at the edge of the system, its energy signature unlike anything in their databases. As it approached, the vessel's design became clear. It was massive, easily the size of a space station, and its hull showed the organic curves that had become associated with Valthier technology. "That's not one of ours," Jiang Min observed. Checking the identification systems. Keeper Thane's voice spoke from the station's bioneural networks. "It is a deep survey ship from the Valthier archives. I did not expect them to respond so quickly to our signals." The massive vessel settled into a parking orbit near the station and immediately began broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The message was simple but profound. "Greetings, children of the synthesis. We are the Archive Keepers, guardians of the final Valthier knowledge repositories. We have observed your achievements with great interest." Wu felt a chill of excitement and apprehension. "Archive Keepers? The last pure Valthier who chose not to transcend to energy form," Keeper Thane explained. "They remained physical to guard the most important knowledge and wait for the Bloodline awakenings to reach maturity." A smaller ship detached from the massive vessel and approached the station. When it docked, the beings who emerged were clearly Valthier, but unlike anything the humans had imagined. They were tall and graceful, with features that seemed to shift subtly in the light. Their leader introduced herself as Archive Keeper Shen. "We have watched your progress with amazement," she said to Wu and his team.
Oh, nice.
"In 6 months, you have achieved what we hoped might take centuries. You have proven that the Bloodline gifts can enhance rather than replace the original species' nature." "We had good teachers," Wu replied, gesturing toward the bioneural networks that connected all the hybrid systems. "No," Shen said firmly. "You had the most important quality for this work. You refused to surrender your essential nature while remaining open to growth and change. That balance is what made the synthesis possible." Over the following days, the Archive Keepers shared knowledge that had been locked away for millennia. Technologies that could heal damaged worlds. Star drives that could cross the galaxy in weeks rather than years. And most importantly, communication. Methods that could unite species across vast distances while preserving their individual cultures. "This is what we dreamed of," Shen explained to an assembly of species representatives. "Not conquest or assimilation, but cooperation that makes everyone stronger while keeping everyone unique." The sharing of archive knowledge triggered a new phase of development. Human engineers worked with Valthier Archive Keepers and representatives from other species to create technologies that no single civilization could have imagined. Ships that could adapt to any environment, cities that grew to meet their inhabitants' needs, and communication networks that spanned star systems while respecting cultural differences. Wu found himself at the center of a galactic transformation. The shy engineer who had crash-landed on a mining planet was now helping to design the future of interspecies cooperation. But he remained fundamentally unchanged, still driven by the human need to understand how things worked and make them work better. "What happens next?" Anna asked, as they watched the latest fleet of hybrid ships prepare for launch. Each vessel carried mixed crews from multiple species, all working together to explore and develop new worlds. "We keep building," Wu replied. "Keep proving that different doesn't mean incompatible. We show the galaxy that cooperation creates more possibilities than conquest ever could." The bioneural networks around them pulsed with gentle light, carrying the thoughts and dreams of thousands of beings working together toward a common goal. The ship that had started as a buried relic had become the foundation for a new kind of civilization. One built on mutual respect and shared creativity. Archive Keeper Shen joined them at the observation port. Watching the diverse fleet prepare for departure, the Valthier transcended to pure energy because we reached the limits of what a single species could achieve. But you have shown us something we never considered. The limits disappear when species work together as equals. Nodded, his enhanced senses feeling the pulse of activity throughout the station. Humans, Valthier, reformed purifiers, and representatives from a dozen other species all working toward the same vision. Not unity through conquest or assimilation, but unity through cooperation that celebrated differences while building on common ground. My ancestors set out to explore the galaxy and ended up transcending physical existence, Shen continued. You set out to fix a broken starship and ended up rebuilding the connections between all the children of the stars. The fleet launched at dawn, spreading out toward distant systems where new worlds waited to be developed and new species waited to be contacted. Each ship carried the hybrid technology that proved cooperation was possible, and the human spirit that refused to accept limitations. Wu remained at the station, continuing his work of building bridges between species and solving problems that no one had ever solved before. He was still an engineer, still driven by curiosity and the satisfaction of making things work. But now his workshop was the entire galaxy, and his tools were the combined knowledge of every civilization willing to work together. The broken starship had been repaired long ago. The real work was just beginning.